Hey everyone, welcome in. Andrea Walker here at Adswerve with your quick tips and tricks video for today. So if you've been hearing the buzz around Adobe Journey Optimizer, you might be wondering, do I even need my email service provider anymore? It is a fair question, and the answer is actually more interesting than just a yes or no. So we're actually going to give you some 7 questions to consider before you consider dumping USP for Journey Optimizer. And actually, here's the thing I want you to hold on to throughout this entire conversation. Again, this isn't an either or decision. For some organizations, AJO genuinely replaces an ESP. For others, the two can coexist. The ESP handles transactional, high volume operation emails, while AJO orchestrates those high value, cross-channel, real-time experiences. Both stories are real, so let's dive in and figure out which one is yours. So first question we have to consider is, do you want to orchestrate across channels? So first and foremost, AJO is a cross-channel orchestration platform. Its real power is coordinating email, SMS, push, in-app, web in real time off of unified profiles. If your team is ready for that kind of orchestration, it's an excellent choice. But if email is generally your only channel today, I'm going to use this analogy. You might be buying the Ferrari just to drive to the mailbox. So here's where coexistence often makes sense. AJO handles those moments that need cross-channel intelligence. So such as a cart abandonment that can start with a push, escalates to email, and ends on an SMS. So while your ESP keeps doing the more bulk newsletter operational sends or programs it already does well, you're not throwing anything away. You're just putting the right tools on the right job. The second question to consider is, are you ready to invest in a real-time data foundation? So what do I mean by that? So AJO does not operate independently, as we know. It sits on top of Adobe Experience Platform. That means schemas, identity resolution, real-time customer profile. That's a powerful foundation, and it's what makes everything AJO does possible. So the question is whether is your organization ready to build that foundation? If you've already invested in AEP, AJO is a natural extension of the work you're already doing. If you're earlier on the journey, this is where the planning conversation starts. And honestly, it's where a lot of the long-term value lives, because that data foundation pays off across way, way more than just messaging. Just something to consider. Third one is, do you want privacy and consent governance built into your data layer? Here is one thing people do underestimate. With your ESP, compliance usually lives in a preference center. So we think opt-ins, opt-outs, suppression lists, communication limits, operational sends that you set up and maintain. That is perfectly workable for a lot of organizations. So Journey Optimizer inherits AEP's governance model, which is a very different layer. We're talking field level data usage, the labels, consent policies, and enforcement rules that do and have to get factored in during implementation, not bolted on after. That's more rigorous, more privacy safe, and it's a real advantage if your organization is serious about data governance. So for more regulated industries, that policy-led architecture can be very appealing from a compliance perspective. Another question to pose, is your team ready to work with structured data at scale? So now with a traditional ESP, your data model varies based on your marketable database, right? And the type of contact and lead records you're already importing or syncing. So AJO expects that XDM structured data that flowing into AEP. Why do I say this? It's because it's a whole different level of effort up front. But here's what it unlocks on the other side. Personalization that actually feels personal. Real-time decisions based on live behavior, offers that adapt to what someone just did on your site. suppressions that update instantly across every channel based on your audience segmentation. In a nutshell, AJO supports personalization initiatives, while ESP can focus on engagement programming with main communication channels being email or an SMS or both, just based on your setup. Other question to ask, do you have cross-functional teams that it rewards? It may sound like an odd question, but go with me here. Running an ESP typically lives in marketing and operations, or historically. Again, it just depends on your current setup and business functions. Getting real value, though, out of AJO usually means a collaboration between marketers and a data-savvy team that understands AEP, the schemas, segments, data streams, etc. What success looks like: marketing leading the strategy and the use cases, partnered with someone, either internal or external, who owns the AEP side. Think a data engineer or a Martech admin who actually speaks STM. So a clear handoff between what we want to do and how we want to make the data support it. So when that partnership exists, AJO sings. When it doesn't, the platform can get underused and people can get frustrated. So if you're not staffed for that yet, that is a planning conversation. That's another conversation, but it's one that needs to happen, but it's not a deal breaker. Plenty of organizations can build that capability, sometimes internally, sometimes with a partner like us, just working to bridge that gap while your team builds that internal muscle. Another question: have you audited your current tech stack and scoped the migration? Why do I ask this question? Templates, automations, suppression lists, historical engagement data. None of that just magically teleports over. And your current ESP might have specific integrations, niche templates, or lead management workflows that your team relies on daily. And maybe you have legacy systems where this hasn't been touched in a while. AJO is an entirely different platform. And I've seen the gotchas come out during discovery around what AJO can and cannot do versus your existing ESP. So this is where an audit earns its keep. A good audit doesn't just inventory what you got. It identifies what to migrate, what to retire, and what to keep running in parallel and what to rebuild better. It services workflows that just quietly run your business so they don't break on day one. These audits expose integrations that need new plumbing, and it also gives you a defensible roadmap. So you can bake this into like phased, prioritized, with the risks involved. Instead of this just being a lift and shift that can get you into trouble down weeks, so on within your implementation or migration. So honestly, this is one of the most valuable conversations we have had with clients and you need to have with your team, because it's the one that converts either we want to move to AJO into here's exactly how we'll do it without breaking anything that matters. And that's always a good thing. So last question to consider here: do you have a deliverability plan that survives a platform switch? So AJO has solid sending infrastructure, but deliverability is not automatic on any platform. IP warming, domain authentication, reputation management, that work still has to happen. Switching platforms means reestablishing that reputation, which is a real project, not just a checkbox. So what's a good deliverable plan look like? A phased IP warm-up schedule tied to your actual send volumes, domain authentication squared away early, and a parallel send strategy that lets you build reputation on the new platform while the old one keeps the lights on, so to speak. You're also watching engagement signals closely during that transition, because the inbox providers are watching too, as we all know. Done right, your subscribers never notice the switch. Done casually, you spend months digging out of the spam folder. This is just one of the areas where the difference between a smooth launch and a painful one comes down to planning. And it's exactly the kind of thing we make sure clients have mapped before a single email gets sent from the new platform. So coming full circle, is Journey Optimizer the right move? It can be, but that's just not the right question. The better one is, are you ready to build towards everything that Journey Optimizer offers? So for some, the answer is a simple, clean migration. For others, it's a very thoughtful consistence where AJO does what AJO does and ESP keeps doing what it does well. So both are good answers. And the wrong answer is just making the call without doing your homework. So I hope these questions help prep you and get you more prepared when you come time to have this conversation, when it comes time to make the move on this. If you want to talk through where your team actually is in this spectrum, you can reach out to us. We are here. Again, this is Andrea Walker with today's tips and tricks. Have a good one, guys. See you soon.